Hello, welcome to Purpose, Profit and Power Leadership webinar May edition. In this edition, we are super excited to be hosting the phenomenal Dr. Olaocha Nwabara. Guess who Dr. Olaocha Nwabara is? She is an assistant professor. Amazing, right? Dr. Olaocha Nwabara is an assistant professor of West African literature and cultures. She has engaged in numerous scholarly and creative writing projects in African culture, Black history, and gender studies. Dr. Nwabara's passion is to foster conversations that leads to self-love by embodying knowledge of oneself and the community, thereby empowering self-definition and self-determination. Alcha is somebody I know that she is very true and authentic. When she engages in conversation, she introduces you to your real self, your real identity. And today she's going to be taking us on a section on breaking barriers to women in leadership. I'm just the way I'm waiting for this section. I've been anticipating this section for a very long time, and I'm super excited about the personality that is taking it. Jeremy, welcome, Dr. Laucha. Dr. Laucha, thank you so much for honoring our invitation to be on this webinar today.
Thank you, Miss Esther. You are a phenomenal woman, and I am very grateful for this invitation. So I hope that I do justice with what I've shared. But you've given me such a phenomenal introduction, which I think, of course, aligns with what I've prepared today. So it's a lecture, but I think more it's a speech with a lecture incorporated into it. So based on the breaking barriers to women in leadership theme, I've titled my own, talk, Know the Heart to Lead with the Heart, Journeys to Self to Break Barriers Towards Women's Leadership. Okay. So I didn't mean to read this, but I wrote it here. The song that keeps playing in my head as preparing this is from Erica Badu, and it's a song called Hello. And in it, she sings, "It's important to me that you know you are free." And as I was writing this, those words kept, so I just said, let me just share that, even though I can't sing, but you go listen to her, she says it better. But, that is definitely the essence of this. So I've broken this into sections, and the first is, who am I? Who are you? Who are you to yourself? Who are you to those around you? Who are you to your God? My name is Olaocha Nwabara, and I come to identify as an Igbo warrior princess born in a Chicago hospital. I am Black, African, Nigerian, Igbo, Adaokechi, Naijoma, Umu Olaocha, Umu Amachara, woman, human, writer, artist, teacher, orator, sister, daughter, wife, and one day soon mother. How do others see me? Well, I live in the United States my whole life, and despite my Nigerian people striving to come there for financial gain, what we lost out on is psychological well-being, if not rooted in our culture and who we are. In the US, I have been called Ola, Ebola, and have been seen as ugly, fat, black, unworthy, stupid, foolish, worthy of only work, sex, and death. I have been seen also as a queen, a goddess, beautiful, kind, ambitious, resilient, loving, strong, steadfast, honest, adabeke, adaoma, adabuku, adana, dane. See, this world will have many definitions of who you are. Some of them will be wonderful and some of them will be awful. But I cannot underestimate how important it is for you to first find your way to yourself. Only you and your God knows who that self is. It is nothing that is merely earthly. It is completely divine. Our parents, our elders, our leaders, and our peers can only point us in the direction of who we are and our destiny. But we must have the courage and strength to recognize that it is within each of us to truly know our path forward. That type of power is everything. That type of power is most anciently woman. The barriers we must break for leadership as women begin within us. Once we break free, once we can break free of the spiritual and psychological barriers, we can manifest the tools to break free from our physical barriers towards our divine calling. I call on us to find our way to our heart in order to lead with our heart. I promise that it will guide you to your destiny. So, what is leadership? When asked to give this lecture and speech, I thought deeply about what leadership looks like to me. I myself am not formal in a formal leadership position, I thought. I'm not an administrator, I'm not yet to own my own business. However, I had to dig deep within myself to understand that I have always been a leader since birth. First, to be myself is to be a leader because you never know who sees you and wants to emulate the light that you shine. So, first and foremost, as a leader, our responsibility is to help, is to find deep love within myself in order to overcome all the things people say about me. Only then can I be the best Ada and role model for my peers and the youth that I can be. And in my journey to self, I found that elders also looked up to me. What a humbling thing to consider when those who I consider like my aunties and uncles, mothers and fathers are coming to me and telling me how things I have done have inspired them to be their best self. That is an honor I do not know how else to appreciate other than to tell you that it's possible to be your ancestors' wildest dreams, your elders' wildest dreams, and a beacon for truth and harmony for the youth. I believe the best way that I can teach you about leadership is to encourage you on your own journey to self. So let me start by asking you, how are you a leader to yourself first, in your home second, and to your community lastly? What natural talents do you have that aid you in that cause? Leadership can look like leaving an abusive relationship so your daughters know that their mothers will not stand for nonsense. Leadership can look like trusting what God, Allah, Chukwu, Oludumare have asked of you even when your community does not understand. Leadership can look like making sacrifices for your children, husband, parents, family, friends, in order to see them survive. Leadership can look like taking time to mourn a loved one, heal yourself, understanding that you are no use to others until you are first of use to yourself. The biggest message I can drive home is that leadership starts first with leadership of your own heart. It starts with leadership of your own body, soul, and mind. It looks like sacrifice of your spirit in order to align yourself with who you are. It looks like understanding that you are already enough and that you are everything you need for this journey forward, that you are the one you have been waiting for. Today, I want to offer three important components of leadership that all start with knowing yourself and where you come from. The first is about African women's ancient capacity for leadership. It's something we must unearth and learn about in order to understand how our mothers led before us, how that history has been erased through colonialism and slavery, and what it means for us to learn about that history again. What responsibility we have to bring that knowledge forward to the present in order to understand our way forward. The second is about knowledge of self, understanding that many of our cultures see the journey to self as as the first step towards leadership and community. I want to offer the chi of the Igbo people as one example of of correcting history in order to understand the way Chukwu has set life for us in order to be leaders within ourselves and then within our communities. And the third is about what it means to actualize our destiny and to recognize that we can do this both when we feel free and when we feel imprisoned. That when we know ourselves, we can manifest tools necessary to achieve our goals. However, those goals are not those goals are not those that society can determine for us. They are determined by our destiny, which is our divine calling. So next, African women's ancient leadership, or first of the three. African women have always been powerful. And of course, we know that amongst us, Nigerian women have always been extremely strong, brilliant, and forthright. What do you know about the ancient women before us, our mothers of hundreds and thousands of years ago? Surely, if we look upon warriors such as Queen Amina of the Hausa in Nigeria, Queen Mother Ya Santiwa of the Ashanti in Ghana, Queen Nzinga of the Ndogo in Angola, and the Goje in the Home of Benin, we see that our history shows women who have led men into war and to peace for the betterment of our societies, for the protection of our children and our fellow women. Pre-colonial Africa saw women as critical to the balance of society. They understood the likeness of God embodied that of man and woman, and as a result, her earthly manifestation was to be heralded as divine and capable. Some societies saw women as even more powerful than men because of their capacity to give birth. Their ability to be mothers and to birth life into existence was seen as a power worth honoring, and thus her knowledge akin to God, and to be respected, certainly in societies like ancient Egypt, a Black African Egypt, and Ghana, who see no king without a queen mother. They understood that her intelligence is critical in order to create a balanced society. So a kingdom could have multiple women in charge alongside the king, both an elder or peer of the king, like his mother or sister, as well as his wife. Here in Nigeria, we have seen roles where women take on responsibilities of their fathers when no son is born. They have been installed as chiefs, regent chiefs in the past. However, it has been the mechanism of the colonial state that worked to dissolve our leadership positions, to destabilize our power, the way that they have done their own women in Europe. The British and other Europeans strategically exacerbated issues already existing between genders in Africa in order to install men as the sole power. This is very important, and to understand that our oppression as women as is imported. Let me say this again. This is very important to understand that our oppression as women is imported. Unfortunately, this imported oppression of women has been learned over generation and generation and continue to be enacted by our men, and if we're not careful, by our sons. However, what they could not take away is the power to pass true knowledge down, and the recognition of the most um, and the recognition of the importance of women in leadership has been passed down onto generation after generation and continues to do so if we believe ourselves worthy. In my own life, I use this knowledge to trust in myself. I look around to understand the woman already, or the power women already hold, and to think strategically about how we wield it in times of need as a sword. However, the power of African women and leadership is not dictatorship. The woman always thinks with her family and community in mind. With women in leadership, there is no head of the snake to cut off to destroy a people. With women in leadership, there are many heads, so that when one is cut off, the others continue to lead community. That is the wisdom of women. Our emotional intelligence to humbly pass on power even whilst we hold it. I see it in the marketplace. Without women, what would be the market anywhere in Africa? Everybody is about their hustle. But what I love about the market is that when women create a network, they make sure other women are provided for as well as for themselves. It's important for us to see that see the natural ways that we are already leading in order to strategically find our freedoms. The power of a mother to care for her children, her husband, or if she chooses to be alone, then to take care of herself, is not to be considered lightly when it comes to leadership. We come from powerful stuff that allows us to persevere today. The scholar Amina Mama said that it is important for us to put ourselves on the record. I believe that part of our leadership is breaking these barriers. I believe that part of our leadership in breaking these barriers is telling our stories. And that requires a type of humility to understand that freedom may not only be in this lifetime or may not be achieved just in this lifetime, that freedom might be in lifetimes to come. And what role do we play in helping to see the freedom of our future daughters who will become future mothers? How do you tell your stories of yesterday, of today, for tomorrow? There's a power in telling the stories of our mothers and grandmas, grand aunties, and other elders. Women are the master storytellers in Africa. We are. We are the ones who pass culture and knowledge onto our children. It is not learned in books alone, it is learned at home. Recognizing your power as mother, as sister, or as mother or sister within a community, which doesn't have to be biological, is powerful to the long journey towards our freedoms and to building a culture that normalizes recognizing us as leaders again. As much as it is important for us to focus on ways to make income, it is equally important for us to use our creative energies and talents to tell those stories through oral storytelling, writing, if we are writers, through dance, through the arts, through cooking, through remembering our heritage, and by speaking up. I am I am at heart a poet. And one of my favorite poets, Audre Lorde, said this about the power of poetry. And for you, poetry may not be poetry itself, but whatever talent or gifts you have and how you speak that truth. So she said, for women then, poetry is not a luxury. It is a vital necessity to our existence. It forms a quality of the light within which we predicate our hopes and dreams towards survival and change, first made into language, then into idea, then into more tangible action. Poetry is a way we help give name to the nameless so it can be thought. The farthest external horizons of our hopes and fears are cobbled by our poems, carved from the rock experiences of our daily lives. So Audre Lorde understood that our world is one fashioned around the power and language of white men. It is the same world that Africa operates from in a neo-colonial reality, attempting to be like their Western counterparts. In the West, white women look to Black and African women for ways to understand their own power, grace, and freedom. Yet, still in the world, Black women's voices, African women's voices are relegated to the gutters. Our language, our way of understanding the world, our epistemologies are not recognized. Even to ourselves, we have to take time to make an idea into thought, a thought into language, and then find a way to translate that language into the world's language in order to create tangible actions. So we must speak. We must tell our stories. Storytelling is not for fun. Storytelling is a form of a survival. It is the way we share who we are to the next generation, and to understand that telling our stories is a way to free the women of our future and all our people in kind in this type of sacrifice that makes this is the type of sacrifice that makes a fine leader. So next, Chidinma, find your way back. Most of us here have heard of Chi. Chidinma, Chioma, Chibuchi, Ogechi, Okechi, Chinyenye. Amongst the Igbos, we understand that Chi is both related to our understanding of God, Chineke, Chukwu, and related to God. It is also related to our individual spirit and calling. I know that amongst the Yoruba, the closest term is Ori, and our Chi and our Ori, or whatever it is called by your people, is so important to our future and breaking free of any change in order to lead with our heart. We believe that we, the Igbo, believe that one must follow their chi in order to move towards what is meant for them. We do not challenge our chi to a wrestling match, as our chi is determined by God and guides us through to our path. To walk the path is to follow our divine calling. To move against it is to move against all of who we are. As a historian, I will say something that may contradict how even my people understand Chi, but for many of us, we will know it is true. Chinua Achebe is among the thinkers who has taught me more about Chi and my Chi's relationship to Chukwu. As I understand, pre-colonial Igbo land understood Chineke to mean more than the name of God, but how we move as God has asked of us. It is broken down into Chi na Eke. Chi is our spiritual self and representation that works with God to determine, to know how to direct us, to guide us. Na, it means and Eke is a term that is less discussed in scholarship, but when discussed, is done so powerfully and can be understood as something like your driving force. I like to think of it as my verb, where chi is my noun. Together, china eke is something like a reminder of your divine calling towards your destiny. Your chi and your eke will guide you to your destiny. When the British came, they were determined to understand what we call God in order to better translate Christianity to us. They heard us calling Chineke, and attributed it to God, but while never understanding that it for us it does include this, but goes further to speak to the role that each Igbo person has to finding out who they are, following their chi, and with their Eke achieving their purpose. While you may not agree with this or understand this, what I hope you can understand is that we are divinely called to a purpose and that it is our responsibility to walk towards that purpose. Allah, God, Chukwu requires service of us on earth. And to learn what that calling is, you must first go within yourself to figure out who you are. Humbly so, and sometimes beyond what society can imagine for you. It is my belief that the divine is too powerful for us to translate. So there is a level of our calling that can only be understood by looking within, by following your chi or understanding your ori. If we can humbly recognize that our path towards breaking barriers to leadership first begins with loving ourselves enough to know that we have a divine calling towards the way we serve the earth, then perhaps we can be on our path to do this, not only for ourselves, but for our fellow women and our fellow people. Because amongst Africans, we do not believe in women versus men. We believe in complementary women and men. Our path to leadership is not by destabilizing our men, but by first healing ourselves, to heal our fellow sister, and to heal our brothers in kind. We are the ones to find a path forward toward our harmony. We are the warriors. But first, my sister, your warrior path must be that of self love in order to then find truth in the way you lead others towards strength, love, and grace. Next, Ada Uoma, first daughters of a good world. So lastly, let us move fluidly from a place of finding ourselves and truly loving ourselves to actualizing our destiny. Who we are as leaders will start from us understanding our path and walking towards it. As a historian, I have found myself not only in the histories of Igbo, but of many African peoples. When it comes to actualizing destiny, the two peoples outside of my own who I found most powerful to me personally are the Kemetans, or the Black Africans of ancient Egypt, and the Yorubas. The Kemetans have a term, Kepert, and this term is related to the perfectibility of human beings. The scholar Malawana Karenga explains that not to say perfection, because they believe that perfection is not something attainable in the humanly state. However, they believe that each person moves towards their path of their best self, their most authentic self. And that process of perfectibility is based on the shape of that individual and towards the betterment of their community and people. So we must strive for excellence in all that we do. Every day um, we wake up to most honestly make ourselves anew again and work towards our most divine version of self. And on that path will be all that we are meant to have and to be in this world, all that we're meant to be, and all that we're meant to do. In reading from the ancient Yoruba ethical teachings of Ifa or Odu Ifa, I have learned that moral and physical sacrifice is critical to understanding what God or Oludumare is asking of every man and woman. Collectively, we have a responsibility to bring our world to a good condition. Our destiny is inextricably tied to service to the world around us, and humans have the capacity to do this work through good character and internal strength. The English translation reads: the things needed to bring about the good condition are wisdom that is fully adequate to govern the world, sacrifice, character, the love of doing good for all people, especially those who are in need and those who seek assistance from us, and the eagerness and struggle to increase good in the world and not let any good at all be lost. People will continue to go to heaven and they will continue to go back and forth to earth after their transfiguration until everyone has achieved the good condition. Those chosen to bring good into the world are those called human beings or the chosen ones. What I have learned from these teachings from Kemet and the Yoruba helped me to understand my way forward, but not without first making sense of who I am as Igbo. During my research in this regard, I remember a day I asked in prayer what my great grandmother's name meant, Adawoma. I've been reading about this idea of purpose and service in the Oduifa, the Bible, and conversations with friends and colleagues. And now I had a burning sensation to know what it meant and why I felt so close to her in this moment. I finally asked my mom, and she said it means something like first daughter of a good world. And so, truly, what Chuku asks of me, what I need to get there, my chi always rightfully guides me towards. And now I know my great grandmother better, and I tell her story. I draw from her strength and those of my mothers, past and living, to lead with my heart. What have I learned about myself? How have I broken my own barriers to leadership? All of those names, ugly, African booty scratcher, fat, unworthy, stupid, had taught me to hate myself. And oh, did I hate myself. I hated everything about myself. And so I became mean. I became depressed. I pushed away all that was meant for me. But through the process, I shared from my own perspective, from the love of my family, I found my way back to myself. Who you see before you is a product of belief in self. All the money and opportunity means nothing if you do not believe in yourself. If you do not believe yourself worthy. And to be honest, if you do not love and believe in yourself, I do not think you can really believe in God and believe in your destiny, because I think everything I have learned in every culture, every religion, God is like man, man is like God. So if you do not love yourself, then who do you love? So self love over everything. Self love as a way towards yourself in order to find that leader within yourself. Then you'll be able to be the breaker of your own barriers. I have learned that I am a master storyteller and that my leadership will be through what no one can take away from me. Let me say that again. And again, my role on earth and my leadership is grounded in what no one can take from me. My capacity to love, to think, to believe, to tell the truth, to act, to support others. I'm one who will tell you the truth, even if it goes against what you know, if it can free you in order to help you to move to who you're meant to be. Today, I have offered my own truths as I have taken time to consider what I can contribute to this forum, to you, my sisters, and my brothers who support my sisters. I leave you with these tangible actions that can be useful to your journey towards breaking barriers to leadership within our your own environments. I know it is not an easy task, and only you know truly the nature of the barriers in front of you. Each of us have our own, and I cannot take away or pretend to understand, how difficult yours are. I only know my own, and I can only hear the stories of others and choose to tell those stories. But I believe that truth in self and in a radical journey to self love, with those things, you are up for any task. So, first, lead with your heart. But you cannot lead with your heart if you don't know it. So, take time to love, to know what love lies deep within you. Take time to nurture it so that in every step you take, it surrounds all that you do. It guides you in your prayers and follows you as you care for yourself and those around you. And in order and in the work that you do, to love is not weak. It is, in fact, one of the strongest things you can do, especially if you first love yourself. To love yourself is to love the divine that made you. To love yourself is to believe in truth with a capital T, and thus to be guided towards us. Truth is the most powerful tool you can have, and it will always begin with truth of self, love of self. So lead with your heart. And secondly, tell your stories and the stories of those around you. We are humans. We as humans have the power to listen and to understand. We live in a world that has already done some vicious work to erase our histories from us so that we don't understand our strength, our love, our power, or ourselves. And yet, here we are, and yet we survive. However, to thrive, we must have a better understanding of who we are. Some of the history books can tell us, but I truly believe that most of the history we need to learn is within us, is within the knowledge of our mothers and our grandmothers and great grandmothers. So sit with them and sit with your grandfathers too. I see a lot of us focused on caring for our elders, we forget to listen to them, to embody their knowledge. Once they go, they take a whole library with them. Those libraries are sacred knowledge that we have the responsibility and capacity as women to absorb and carry on into the work we do and the future our children hold. Yes, some of our elders can be annoying or stressing, but behind those humanly characteristics is the divine within them wanting to be passed on to the living. Do not let it be lost, and make sure to teach those who are in your lives what you know. So often I see phenomenal thinkers, writers, thinkers, doctors, lawyers, and yet their children cannot read, cannot think, cannot heal the most simple wounds, cannot protect themselves from litigation. So we must recognize all of our strengths and knowledge, our stories worthy to pass on. So pass it on. Dalu, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olaocha. Thank you so much for this amazing section. I love the fact that you explored our spirituality as women. There is a need for us to be in touch with our source, which we call different names in our different cultures. Sometimes we call it Ori, the Igbo call it Chi, and Christians, believers call it the Holy Spirit. So we need to be in touch with our source in order to fulfill purpose, in order to unleash our leadership and to break as women is the barrier that we ourselves have in us. Self-sabotage, inability to trust ourselves.
Esther, I know it's probably the network, but I'll say something while we're waiting for you to come back. Um, that you were mentioning that whole thing of self sabotage, I was thinking about Audre Lorde. She has a piece called Eye to Eye, and it's been really powerful to me because as I was going through my graduate studies, I saw a lot of women really trying to tear each other apart, tear apart our women who are in leadership positions. And then I saw them coming for me. And by then I'm like, you know what? I've seen you try to tear apart my elders. So, how can you really how I have to humble myself because if you're trying to tear apart our leaders, then
Okay,
who am I?
apologies, please.
No problem. I was just thinking about what you had said. Continue though.
All right, apologies, please. The network here is bad. The third world factor. So, a quick one. I love the fact that you spoke about we women unleashing our potential, being in love with ourselves because fulfilling our purpose is one way of showing that we love ourselves. It's self love to fulfill our purpose as women. So, it is not a gender thing, it is us recognizing who we are, connecting with our source, connecting with our chi, connecting with the Holy Spirit, connecting with our Hori, whatever spiritual link we want to link it to. So the question I want to ask is this: as women, we in gender studies we discovered that femininity and masculinity is more of an experience than a gender thing. So as women, how do we maximize this? As women in leadership, how do we maximize this so so society won't see us as, oh, she behaved more like a male, or she's just too feminine to lead. How do we as women maximize our experiences of being feminine and being masculine at the same time?
Mm, that's a very powerful question. Um, I can first just speak to myself. Like, whenever I speak to my father about anything I'm doing, he'll be quick to tell me, "Oh, you're just like your daddy," or "Oh, that's just like your mom." And so I think in my household, there's a normalization of how us as children could behave in ways that were like our mother and like our father. And it was of course less about gender and about more about characteristics. So I think that in my family, the women are, are very, very strong minded, very brilliant, very comfortable in our femininity, and also we honor our masculinity and its source. Because I personally think that when it comes to this masculinity, that it's coming straight from where you learned it. When I think about who my partner is, I'm looking to my father and the men in my life to find a good partner, and I'm looking to strength, love, because I look at how my father loves as a man, how my brother loves as a man. There are things that perhaps we consider feminine that I've seen my father exude, my brother exude, but in society they're going to be seen as a man's man. Um, so I think this is a very powerful question, and I think it first starts with us believing that, like, not just believing, like believing one that we can embody the power of our elders and of those around us, and that is whether it's man or woman or whatever the case may be, and we have to find a way to teach it to those around us. So then when a leader comes who is embodying both woman and male characteristics, we can start to kill some of the dissent that of the community, because that person, is probably finding themselves and knows themselves, but the issues, those of us around who are relegating their characteristics to too feminine or too masculine. I think that the problem is a societal one, that we as women have such a our men should participate, but we have such a powerful capacity to be the ones to say, there's nothing wrong with that. That strength she got is from her father. That strength she got is from her uncle, her brother, from the neighbor who's always treated her well, you know? And when it came time to fight, he's the one who taught her to fight. When it came time to heal, she's the one who taught him how to heal. So maybe he heals like his mother. And I think this is not just a thing about women, but it's also about men. Because if we see men seeming too gentle, we see them as soft. But some of the most gentle men I know are the strongest men I know. So I'm not sure if that quite answers it directly, but I think that there is something that we can honor the fact that we learn from both men and women. Therefore, how we embody certain characteristics are going to be both male and female, and there's nothing about that. So, like you're saying, like gender can be experienced. Yes, I do think that's true. I think that there's so many ways to identify how we are. There are people who identify with multiple genders. My fathers are in me just as much as my mother's. So as you see me today, my energy is both from learned from men and from women. There's no separation. I can identify as woman while still honoring the men within me, and that are around me. And I think first, like that person in charge has to just not worry about how other people think, because people are always going to have something to think. But perhaps we can start to work to understand that how we are is a product of our surroundings, one, and our choices, two. Our choices to move towards however we see our future, our divine calling, but also how we understand what it means to be a good individual. I'm not going to just abdicate all the things my father did because he's man. Nope, I'm going to embody them because he's the best person I know. Him and my mother are the best people I know. So to embody them equally is to do the best, with my future. And I think that if we recognize that, the power that our elders and our peers, male and female, have in helping to shape who we are, then we can understand the fluidity that we're going to move back and forth between those characteristics and how we move as leaders.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Olaocha.
No
Thank you for
problem.
joining us. And I've been having network glitches around here. So, yes. So we
No
just
worries.
appreciate your final word for the audience on the topic, on what you feel women should know, on the things you've been practicing yourself that has helped you um to scale in your career.
Do you have that second question? I was very curious to hear your second question. I will do the final things as you've asked. Okay. I think the network is going again. Um, you know, first daughter, and my family has been very patient with me, because I did not go the path they wanted at all. In the US, we know that some of the best, like the most lucrative careers are to be like a doctor or lawyer, engineer, we say. And so for me, I was first going to be a doctor, and it wasn't going to happen. And then because I was too queasy around blood. Then I wanted to become an engineer, and engineering was working fine, but some of the courses to take weren't. And eventually, I just kept going left and right, and every way was against how my family told me to go. And they just were like, "Is this one gonna be okay? Is she gonna be okay? Like, what's happening with Ola and Ola's future?" But um, as much as I used to be a bit frustrated with all of that, but I understood like it's from a place of love. Of course, you're gonna come all the way to America from Nigeria. You want your children to do well, to survive after you have left. My father always told me that he brought me into this world, and it's his responsibility to see me through. So finally, I come to this as this role as professor. I come to wanting to answer questions about who I am, and why, who we are as Africans, as Nigerians, as Black people. And when I finally decided I was going to do my PhD in African history, African studies, my dad just said to me, "Oh, your grandfather is a professor, your grandmother is a professor." And then my mouth just dropped. Like they always had these names, like prof, but I didn't know. Like I just heard it so often. It's like daddy, grandpa, prof, like it's all the same. My grandmother would
It's
never call
general.
herself doctor. She'll never call herself Doctor Comfort. Nwabara. She'll just say I'm Comfort, Grandma Comfort. So here I am. My family has told me to go this way, that way, and I just trusted myself to become this professor, a teacher, a writer. And here I am, I'm following in the steps of those before me. And so that's when I really understood, like, okay, my family can guide me, but it's me who has to really just trust in self to determine my way forward. And in that, I was able to start to work on a journey to loving myself in a world that really tells its children to hate itself. I don't know how else to say that to my people there in Nigeria, but in the US, there's money to be gained, but there's also like self to be lost, if you're not careful. So I think my final words, like, leadership, I believe everyone has it within themselves, to figure out how to move forward. I cannot be the one to tell you, but I can say that you are enough, that you are powerful, and it really takes you figuring out who you are. And that is a life journey. Until we die, I do not believe we'll know ourselves completely. And that should be the beauty of it, that life can be something continuously to unfold and unpack. And that if we can find it for ourselves, then our leadership will look beautiful because we can constantly encourage it in each other, in our sisters, in our children, in our elders, I do think that's it. That if we can find love in ourselves, then we can remove that hate we have towards other. We can remove the judgment we have to others. Let others live their life. Their life doesn't have to be their life. And if we can figure this out, then maybe we can find a way to work towards each other. And lastly, I'll just say that I have really tried to humbly try to recognize that this kind of future we're looking for ourselves may not be achieved in my lifetime. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But it then means, okay, the work is a very important task at hand, that I need to do as much as I can in this life as long as I'm living. And then when I do it, I don't fear death. I know death is coming. Death comes to us all. But I believe that I will have blessings upon blessings upon blessings if I just continue to settle into whatever God has asked of me and to move towards that. So I really wish all of you the same, because we have a lot to overcome as women. There's no doubt about that. But we are up for the task. We are powerful. We are intelligent. Our emotions are intelligence. And we should honor every bit about us, and everything that people say that is not negative against us. We should recognize those weapons wielded against us will not prosper. You know, God is leading the way. We can lead the way, but only first knowledge of self. So thank you again, Esther, for bringing me. That's my thing. That's it.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much, Prof. This is really amazing. Your life experience, your teaching, content, and everything. Thank you. You know what? I don't know. I love listening to you. I love listening to you. Everything about you, experiences, how you live the African experiences, and you do it excellently.
Thank you. I remember growing up, in the US, everybody wants to be like American, American, American. Even us, like as children of Nigerian immigrants, we speak like Americans, but we still have a lot to become American. And that my mother, she didn't care. Everybody could dress like an American. She's gonna come full traditional to my, second or primary school event, and she's gonna teach them about what it means to be Nigerian. And we'd be like, "Oh God, Mom, we just want to be
Oh,
like Americans." And she would speak Igbo to us. She didn't care. She would teach us our food, how to eat our food. My dad would take us to Nigeria. Don't care what people would say. We go home to the village every time. So, even as a child trying to run as close to America as possible, deep in me, my parents were teaching me how to always honor home. And so then I think those type of roots and guides allowed me to say, okay, let me move towards myself. I am fully American. Look, I can jump into any American conversation. I can do anything. If you hang out with me here in the US, you'll see it. But to figure out who I am and to love myself at home is a journey, because everyone's telling me not to. Why? So anyway, thank you, Esther. It's a blessing, and I'm so grateful that you gave me this opportunity. And thank you for the ladies. I see you there, Fatima, Grace, and my sister, Favor, who's laughing because she knows my family. She knows me. So thank you. Now I'm gonna go get some tilapia and banku because I'm in Ghana, and that's some of the best food here. But never the jollof rice. I'm sorry, it's Niger all the way.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Before I would before I was kicked out, I would say your grandma did a great work, your dad did a
mm,
great work,
mm,
and they actually helped us the story you're telling and everything. It's really
I
amazing. Thank you so much for bringing this section.
of course.
You made it so phenomenal, the content and everything. Thank
Yes,
you for honoring our invitation. Thank
of
you.
course. Thank you. Thank you too. Thank you,
All
everybody.
right. Today we are bringing this session to an end. If you like to follow uh, Dr. Olaocha, she shares amazing content, hosts amazing events. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. My network keep throwing me out,
No
and
problem.
I'm going to go back to this video. I'm going to rewatch it for my own personal growth too. All
Thank
right,
you.
you're bringing this session to an end. We want to appreciate you, Doctor, for joining us today. Please, if you have questions, feel free to follow her on our social media handle on Instagram, on the Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm going to share the link on Facebook. I'm going to share so that you follow her. If you have questions, you can send it to her privately. She has spent 1 hour with us. She was supposed to teach for 5 minutes, but even the 1 hour, I don't feel satisfied. I feel like she should keep going. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this amazing section. We do not take it for granted. We do not take your time for granted. And the knowledge you've shared with us, Mama, it's amazing.
You know.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you too. Thank you
Yeah.
too, Esther.
All right. So we are bringing today's session to an end. You can join us next month on a session, and we don't know the guest you're bringing next, but it promises to be amazing, just like this. Thank you, Ma. Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone. See you next time. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.